All right, this is a test. We're testing at least the sound from right here because I'm super close, and this is a gun, and it goes. Hello, welcome to the Surplus Boys channel. I'm obviously Nick. This is Patrick, and today we are talking about a Tokarev. Not just any particular Tokarev. We're talking about Romania's Tokarev, the actual TTC. But before I can actually get to Romania's version, you got to talk about a little bit of history of the actual Tokarev. So here we have Tokarev in this nice communist pouch of holsterness.
Such all the European countries did.
Yeah, pretty much. So here we have Tokarev. Obviously, you can check it. It's clear. Magnum nothing in it. Nothing in there. All right, so we're good. So this is Romania's Tokarev. They call it the TTC. That is for Tula Tokarev Sigur. So that is the actual factory is made out of the city of Sigur. So a little bit of history on the Tokarev. So for Russia and in the interwar period in the 1920s, 1930s, for the 20s, they had what you would know as the 1895 Nagant revolver, 7-shot revolver that they used. Obviously, in a previous video with Patrick's 1911, U.S. already had a semi-automatic gun. A bunch of other countries did as well. Russia was kind of late to the game. So in about 1929, 1930, depends on what sources you are going toward, Russia, their council decided to be like, hey, we need a new pistol. So they started doing trials. A man by the name of Fyodor Tokarev submitted his design, and Russia was immediately like, yeah, that's good, let's go. So from there, they did more trials and testing and stuff like that, and they started producing it within the year. And then they came out with the TT30, which, if you know Russian nomenclature, usually the letters mean something. Obviously, that's Tula and Tokarev. That's what the TT is, 30, obviously the year of manufacture or designation. And the TT30, they made about almost 100,000 of those from 1930 to 1936. And already when they were making that, they were trying to find out new ways to produce it way cheaper and quicker. And then that's where you get the TT33, which most of us know.
That is one of the most Soviet statements I've ever heard you say.
What, make things cheaper?
Yeah.
Of course. That's the only, the communist state, you got to make things cheaper.
Russian national anthem intensifies.
Yes, exactly. So with that, yeah, they had to make it cheaper. The TT33 came out. And from about 1933, 1934 to 1945, they made about 1.3 million, and they made it past that all the way up until 1954. I don't know production numbers on that. And then this was replaced by the Makarov in Russia in 1952, actually. So with that, that skips Russia's pretty much line of this pistol here. But of course, Russia, if you know Russia and you know the Soviet Union, they had a lot of satellite states that were also communist. Long list of different countries made a version of this, a copy of it, and that is pretty much China, Vietnam made one, Poland,
Vietnam made one.
Yeah, Vietnam had a version. I have notes kind of about which ones do it, but I'm not going to bother looking at it. A lot of those, yeah, those satellite states, and then this one, obviously Romania. Pretty much what this gun is a licensed copy of a copy. Because this looks quite familiar to what you would know as a 1911, like we said in the last video, as Patrick ever so slightly puts it in frame. The thing is, though, actually, it is actually technically two guns put into one. In Europe, especially during the early 1900s, one of the more common guns you'd see, especially for self-defense, was the FN, or Browning, 1903 pocket hammerless. That was a very common gun back then, especially in Europe. So this actually has more of a look of one of those, but it's not a blowback operation because it is a much more high-powered cartridge. So it actually uses the 1911's tilting barrel action. And yeah, that's pretty much on history.
Made it simpler.
Yeah, made it simpler. Obviously went to police forces, military. Even up until I think 2012, the Tokarev was used in police and military operations. I think in Vietnam and another country, I forget. Yeah, for that long. That's a long time.
You probably see them in Ukraine right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, you're going to see them in
they're
Ukraine,
probably in
just
Ukraine
like everything
right
else
now,
in Ukraine right now. It's 2023.
Yeah, it's not 2023.
But it's 2024. Yeah, right. Oh, I forgot. But yeah, so that's pretty much it on kind of basic history on it. So from there, we're gonna actually bring you guys closer to take a deeper look on everything. All right, so now we got the Tokarev closer up. We can actually look at a bunch of the accoutrements and other little things that go with it, and handling and such like that. So obviously, first, make sure this is has nothing in it. Nothing in there. All right, now that's clear. So pretty much what you'll find is on the markings here that you'll actually see that the serial number's right there. That's an arsenal marking, that little triangle. And then the year of manufacture for these. Usually you find most of these in the 50s when these Romanian ones were manufactured. And then on the grip here, you'll have RPR, which is Romanian People's Republic. And then other than that, you usually find another serial number up here on the slide. So with that, obviously this one is different than the actual frame. So this is cobbled of 2 guns. Other than that, there's not much else on the right-hand side of the gun. So that's pretty much that for markings. And then from there, controls and whatnot. Obviously mag release, very indicative of a Colt. Trigger, obviously. This is the safety that was put on these when they were brought into the country. So this one I have actually deleted because it was causing major malfunctions with this gun. So it actually doesn't move. Your hammer has a safety notch. Full cock, that's it. Your sights on these, very basic for the time. Kind of high when it comes to the pistols of this design. Other than that, on this side, there's really nothing else. This piece right here is actually for disassembly. And then obviously chamber. And then there's your slide catch. Like so, and it's also your pin for disassembling that holds the whole thing together. And that's about that. Now we'll disassemble this bad boy right here. And then, yeah. So first you want to pull this pin. Sometimes you might need a screwdriver or something to get it out. Yeah, so got that out. Actually, how I do it, I'll pull the slide back a little bit. This comes right out. And then at this point, you have tension from the recoil spring, so you want to take it out slowly and hold the spring in place. There you go, that's the frame. Put that over there. And now you have this, obviously your recoil spring, and this will want to fly out on you. So you want to pull that out very gently without having it fly across the room. There's that. Spring. Now on mine, it doesn't retain for some reason. This is the little pushing pin that holds it in place. And then here we actually have your barrel bushing, which you'll rotate either way. It'll come out, and then 180 degrees, pops right out. And the barrel, you want to push the falling pin piece out of the way. There's the barrel. And this is the slide that holds the firing pin in here. And you see it right there. Obviously the hammer falls on that. There is this pin which holds that in place. I'm not going to take that out because that's just too much to deal with right now. And then here you can actually see up in the slide, see those little tiny lines up there that kind of make up the locking surface for the barrel. And one of the things on the barrel that you'll see here is in most barrels, especially for 1911s and other guns that use the same type of falling link, is pretty much you'll just see at the top has the grooves for the locking surface. But for the TT33 and everything after, and also for this TTC, you'll see that they pretty much just put this in a lathe and spun it all the way around. The bottom surfaces don't actually lock to anything. And then also going back to the frame here, the trigger group is something you can just pull right out. So this has a bunch of pins and other pieces that hold the hammer assembly and the sear together. So it makes it much more easier to clean. And then also one thing on these guys that you would not see on its it's pretty much copy, or the fact that it copies the 1911 is that these actually right here are for the magazine. So if your magazine is messed up, it can still relatively load cartridges okay. I've yet to have a problem with a magazine where it's that messed up. So I haven't actually seen these do what they're said they're supposed to do. That, and then on the frame here, you can go further and take the grips off. There's slots in each side where you have to turn, I think, counterclockwise, and then those come off. And then the magazine button, that's actually a screw right there, a small screwdriver. Not going to take that apart. And then for these safeties that are on this gun that are of this particular style, what you do, you actually pull this out of the way so you can push this through. I'm not going to do that because I have this set a very special way where it doesn't mess up the action of the gun. And now that that is all taken apart, I'm going to put it back together. It's a little bit easier, I would think, in some aspects than its main inspiration, the 1911. Some aspects aren't so easy. So I have a frame here, trigger group, that just literally falls right in place. That's it, nice and easy peasy. Then you'll have your slide here. Take the barrel goes in through the front, just like that. Here's your falling link. And I'll show you a little bit later of how that's way easier to put together than 1911. There's that. Here is your recoil spring, bushings on both sides that fit in place. So from here, you can do a couple things. There's one way that I prefer not to do it. That's a little bit more difficult because you got to fight against the spring. Either way, you're fighting against the spring. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm actually going to put the barrel bushing on first, get it in place, and I'm going to stick the recoil spring in its place. I'm not going to fully tension it yet. Get this ready because this is where you got to hold against the entire thing, and hopefully it doesn't fly across the room. So you're going to want this concave piece right here to fit up against the barrel. So tightening this is a bit of the scary part. Getting that to fit just right. All right, now that's in place. Now the thumb's holding me up against it. And the one good thing about this falling link will not move how it sits. It moves it just a little bit, but it's always in place where you can put your retaining pin in place so it doesn't fall down. So you don't gotta balance things out like a 1911 will. And so from here, I have this all together. Take the slide it into the grooves for the frame here. That's in place. Now you want to just slightly move it back to align the holes there. Put pin in place, it's in place, flip it around, push that on. If you don't do that, if you try to start shooting this, it's going to start falling out and the pin's going to fall out and the gun's, everything's going to go poop, and you don't want that. Pretty sure there's a Hickok 45 video somewhere where he forgot to put that in place and it started falling out on him. And that's about it. And she is ready to go. So that's about it. Other than that, this takes pretty much the, I don't know if I mentioned before, this takes the 7.62 by 25 cartridge. I don't have one here to show you, but that is pretty much Russia's direct copy of the Mauser C96 cartridge, which is a 7.63 by 25 millimeter cartridge. Obviously, quite a difference, right? But these actually have way more powder in the cartridge, so they will definitely be way more spunky. You do not want to put a Tokarev round in a Mauser. You would have a bit of an issue there, a bit of an overpressure issue. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So we're going to bring you back out and talk about conclusions here. All right, now that we have the camera back over there and a close-up of this, yeah, that's pretty much it on the Tokarev assembly, disassembly, some of the smaller things on it. Conclusions pretty much, do I recommend buying a Tokarev? Hell yeah. They're cool. They're very strange, obviously, to us in the United States. Obviously, a cartridge that's a little weird for us as well. That's what you would think of a handgun cartridge. You would think of more of a slower moving cartridge.
Well, you can get these in 9mm, which I guess
you can,
make
yes.
them a little bit better.
So yeah,
the
I think the Chinese had a version.
I think the Yugos had a version of it.
Yugos, I think, had it. I don't know if the Zastav M57 is probably most people more heard of that one.
Yeah, I think they made those in 9mm.
Yeah, there's a few in 9mm. Obviously, everybody knows 9mm. But that's 9mm. That's too common for me. I need something silly. So 7.62 by 25 is very stout. Actually, recoil on this you would think is hotter because it's actually moving at about 1,200 to 1,300 feet per second. That's obviously way more than the standard about what 8 to 900 on a 45, which most people would know.
Yeah.
But that is obviously shooting a 230 grain
Projectile.
projectile.
Yeah.
This is shooting an 85 grain projectile. That is way.
Is that in the same ballpark as 9mm?
What? Weight?
Like velocity wise?
No,
It's
no,
9mm slower.
no. 9mm is a little bit higher, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. We don't know too much about 9mm. I'd recommend getting one. Price range anywhere. This one was very cheap. I actually got this for $400. Some people might say that's not cheap. Well, for at the time when I was looking for one,
Yeah, when you got that.
they go anywhere from 5 sometimes to 1,000. I don't know why to the 1,000. That's probably more like an actual Russian one. But for the Romanian ones, yeah, they're more on the lower end in the mid spectrum.
As a side note, you bought that during COVID.
I did buy.
I bought my gun during COVID.
Yeah.
And that was the cheapest I think I saw that. And
Yeah.
I think that's the cheapest you saw that.
Yeah, that was the cheapest one,
Yeah.
and for good reason. Once we get into the actual next video, we're going to compare the two,
Yeah.
and I will get into pretty good detail why it was the cheapest one.
Why? Yeah.
Had a lot of problems, but that's also the gamble we play with surplus. Obviously, they're old guns. Old guns have seen a lot, especially some of the guns we're going to get into later on. Guns that are 100 years old, they've seen a lot.
Some don't
of
look
shit.
it.
Some have been holster queens sitting there, in a holster their entire lives.
Some got arsenaled after a war
Yeah,
and never shot.
Yeah, some were made and they were made to go
And some were
to
like-
a war, and they came back and they didn't do anything.
And some were like French rifles, never fired, only dropped.
Yeah, just like that. Looking at you, France. And so with that, it's a gamble, yes, but is it worth it? Definitely.
It's the best way to gamble.
I recommend definitely getting into some of the weirder guns that you're not more affiliated with. Ammo also, you would think, obviously for a 45, easy to find. That's a very common cartridge here. I've had no problems finding Tokarev ammo. When I first got the gun, yes, but that was during COVID when we had a very bad ammo supply.
Well, we had
But
bad
other
ammo.
than that, I can find every time I go to the places we go to get ammo.
Where'd you buy all the surplus stuff from? Was that surplus?
Surplus. I can't put you a link because YouTube doesn't want me to. But SG ammo. You can find Tokarev on there. You can find surplus. You can
He's got
find,
a lot of other good prices on ammo too.
Yeah, you can find PPU mostly in S&B. Obviously, the more common ones you're going to find, especially with European cartridges.
Yeah.
So,
PPU actually makes a pretty damn good
Yeah.
good cartridge. I use them basically all my guns besides
Pretty much. Yeah.
besides the rifle I can't speak about yet.
Yeah. PPU is definitely.
And S&B is pretty good unless you're shooting 303 British. Then it rim locks like a mother.
We'll talk about that later. So other than that, that's pretty much it. That's the Romania's Tokarev there. All that said, see y'all later. We're gonna put the basic YouTuber thing. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let them algorithm gods know that we are trying not to mess up.
Couple months.
We'll just hide. Look, why do they keep hiding their hands on the table? Because it's toasty.
We're ferociously jerking off underneath. All right.